So today we're going to be talking about context clues and different types of context clues. Now, context clues are basically you are looking at the sentence and it scares you because you don't understand everything in that sentence, right? Or you're having a conversation with someone and all of a sudden you feel scared or you feel anxious because you don't understand everything that person is saying. The way around that is to look at the context. So you look at what is surrounding the word that you don't know, okay? And that helps you understand the meaning. Now, we do that all the time in our native languages. So in your native language, someone says a word that you don't know, and you don't freak out. You don't freak out because you know what all the other words around, or the majority of the other words around that sentence mean. Yeah? So we're going to take those skills that you already have and we're going to put them in English. Okay? So just so you know, you're already doing this. This is not something new to you. You already know how to do this. I'm just going to point out the skills that you're going to be using, which you already have. Okay, so it's all about taking those skills and transferring them over to English. All right, so context clues are hints found within a sentence, or the paragraph, or the passage that you are reading or that you are listening to, that you are going to use to help you understand the meaning of a word that you don't know, okay? Context clues essentially help you as the reader understand the meaning without understanding, or guess the meaning without understanding the full sentence, all right? And as we go on, we're going to read our chapter book this semester, and you're going to find that there are a lot of words that you don't know, and that's okay. All right? So then we are going to look at the context around it to make an educated guess. An educated guess means that it's not random, right? It's something that based on what you see, you can walk and you can tell what the word means. So for example, if you walked in this door and you don't know it's a classroom, and you look at the chairs and the tables and you look at the board, you guess that it's a classroom, right? Now, if you walk through that door and you find desks all over, desks like the one I'm sitting on, you would probably guess that it's an office building, right? There's some kind of a work going on. And that is called an educated guess. You look at the clues or the hints around you, and that's how you realize the meaning of something. Okay? Cool? Those are context clues. All right. So there's different ways to look at context clues. There are different techniques that you can use to improve your ability to see if the meaning of a certain word. One of these things is called or the first one we're going to look at is called the restatement or a synonym of clues. And these are context clues where an idea or a word is repeated in a sentence in a different word or phrased a little bit differently in the same sentence. That helps you understand the meaning, okay? So this method helps the reader understand the meaning of an unfamiliar word by offering a similar word or phrase. So for example, flooded with spotlights, right? This is our sentence, flooded with spotlights. The focus of all attention the new Miss America began her year-long reign. She was the signature of all eyes for the rest of the evening. So we're looking at this phrase, and there are some words that we don't know. Can anyone help me and tell me what are the words that you don't know? Or what's the biggest word that you don't know? Signature, right? Signature is not a common word. We don't use it all the time. You may or may not have ever heard this word, okay? What do you think it means? So flooded with the spotlight, what does that mean? Attention, exactly. The spotlight, and what else do we know? It's a spotlight on Miss America. Yeah, so everyone's familiar with Miss America, with Miss Universe, Miss Argentina, Miss Brazil, whatever, right? So we know that if someone is in a Miss America competition, the spotlight is on that person. Yeah? So then our sentence says, flooded with the spotlight, the focus of all attention, the new Miss America began her year-long reign. She was the signature of all eyes for the rest of the evening. That means that the attention was on her the entire evening. We know this because they told us, they repeated that meaning. It's repeated where it says, the focus of all attention. Okay? Do you see it? So in certain sentences, there are statements that it's restated in the sentence. Sometimes we say something twice in different formats. And again, you do this all the time in your native language. So now we're seeing it here and we're putting it like, oh, I actually know how to do this. Does that make sense? Okay. So here again, we are using a restatement or clues that readers can infer the meaning. So essentially, you are looking for clues in the sentence that are repeated, and that's why it's called a restatement. A statement is something you say. A restatement is something that you say twice. Okay? In a different way. All right. The next one we have is a context clues, or these are the antonyms. This is the opposite of that, what that word means, okay? It is contrary. It is the opposite of the word that you don't know. So for example, the way you would know these words is when you have things like although, however, but. So if I'm saying, I like cheese, but I don't like potatoes. By saying but, I'm saying the opposite, right? Okay, so those are words, they're called signal words that show us that there is a contrary or a contrast or the opposite in the next part of the sentence, okay? So here's our example. The children were as different as night and day. Were they the same? Were they the same? They were different, right? So the children were as different as night and day. He was a lively conversationalist. Conversationalist is someone who has a lot of conversations, right? But she was reserved and taciturn. Do we know what taciturn means? No. What do we know? What does the sentence tell us about the children? What is it? They're different. So the first one, how is he like?
He's talking all the time.
He's talkative, yeah. He's lively, he has a lot of energy, and he's a conversationalist. He talks a lot.
He's quiet.
But she, right? This is the different child, right?
Yes.
But she was reserved and taciturn. So what's the opposite? What's the opposite? Exactly, shy, right? Shy or reserved, not talkative. If he's lively and a conversationalist, but she is, right? Or she is as different as night and day, it means she is the complete opposite. So while we don't use that word often, you've never heard it, it's okay. This is how we can tell the meaning of a word, by looking at what's in that sentence. Does that make sense? Yeah? Next up, we have definition clues. And definition clues are context clues where the meaning of the word is directly provided in the sentence. So it will show up in the sentence. These clues often use the word or phrases that, such as that is, or comma, or dashes, or parentheses. Okay? So the meaning is already in the sentence. And you can usually tell that because it's usually followed by that is for the definition, or two commas. So a comma, the meaning, and then another comma, which that's what we'll see here. Or you have parentheses, okay? Yes? So for example, the arbitrator, comma, the neutral person chosen to settle the dispute, comma, arrived at her decision. What do you think arbitrator means? What is it?
Coach.
A judge, someone who's chosen to judge. Yes. How do you know that? It's in the sentence. Neutral person, right? It's in the sentence. The definition comes right after it. The reason why it has the two commas, like it's in between two commas, because if we take that out, the sentence still makes sense, right? The arbitrator, where is it? The arbitrator arrived at her decision. The sentence makes sense, but it doesn't tell us who the arbitrator is. So in this case, the arbitrator, the neutral person chosen to settle the dispute, that's the two commas, right? The first comma, then the meaning, then the next comma. This is how we know that it's telling us more about that word. Okay? Yeah? Or if we want to say it differently, the arbitrator, that is the neutral person chosen to settle the dispute, arrived at her decision. Yeah? So either one of these will tell you the definition. And so definition, context clues are clues that you already find in the sentence. You don't have to look for them somewhere else. You don't have to look for them everywhere. They're just right there in the sentence. Okay? Questions? No questions so far? You're good? The next one is comparison. I don't know why there's no example, but well, there's the example. Oh, no, that's not the example. Comparisons are when you have two things that you are comparing, okay? So this is where the meaning of an unfamiliar word is determined through its comparison to a more familiar word. This type of context clue often uses words or phrases such as like or similar to or as to compare the two things. So for example, They are, we saw this one earlier, right? The children were as different as night and day. We are comparing the children by using the word as, right? They are as different as night and day. That's how different they are, right? We're using a comparison. They are like brothers and sisters. Like is using to compare these two people. The example that I have here is the fabric was as diaphanous as a spider's web, allowing light to pass through it easily. I'll write that down for you guys here. What do you think diaphanous means? The fabric was as diaphanous as a spider's web, allowing light to pass through it easily. Clear, right? Or maybe it's you can see through it, right? So you have to think about what are the words around it. What is this being compared to? What's diaphanous being compared to? What is it? Someone said it. A spider's web. How does a spider's web look like? Translucent, thin, has a lot of holes in it, right? You can see through it. So then we know that diaphanous is being compared to the spider's web. And by using the phrase as, it's as, it was as diaphanous as a spider's web, right? And that means very light, delicate, and transparent or translucent. Okay, and we know that for sure because the rest of the sentence says, it gives us more clue about it, right? Allowing light to pass through it easily. You see it? Do you see what I'm talking about? Okay, good. Ah, right. Next up, we have examples. And example context clues are, they provide an example of what we're talking about to help us identify unfamiliar words. So when you're reading something that says, for example, it gives you an idea of how that looks like. Does that make sense? Yeah? No? Maybe? Questions? Okay. So you're using things like such as, for example, including, to introduce these example, making it easier for the reader or for the, it's going to take a minute to turn off. There we go. So it makes it easier for the reader to actually understand what they are reading. So for example, we have this sentence. Ah, Arboreal animals, such as monkeys, koalas, and sloths, spend most of their lives in trees. Arboreal is the word we don't know, right? Then we have examples of monkeys, koalas, and sloths. Do you know what a monkey is? Do you know what a koala is? Do you know what a sloth is? Maybe not, but you know what a monkey is and what a koala is. And they spend their life where? In trees. You know what a tree is? So what does arboreal mean? Animals who live in trees. That's it, right? Also, Spanish speakers, what does that look like? What does that word look like? Árbol. Yeah.
What's that?
Árbol,
I don't know.
right? So a lot of the times, by the way, for the Spanish speakers, because it's a Latin base, because both languages have a Latin base in them, so obviously Spanish is a Latin based language. English is not majority Latin based, but the academic words are majority Latin based. Anything that looks like something that you know is probably something that you know. Okay? And it's usually like weird words that we don't use often, but they're used in academic English. So if it looks like something that you know and you're not really sure about it and you speak Spanish, it's probably what it looks like. Okay? Cool? So we figured out what this means because of words like such as, and it gives us examples. Yeah? So monkeys, koalas, and sloth, we know what these are. We know what a tree is. That means that the word arboreal are animals that live in arboles, right? Árboles, whatever you want to call it, in trees. Yeah? Cool? All right. Next up, we have cause and effect. Oh, no, we don't. I'm kidding. We have lists or a series. And a list or a series are, there's a list of words that help us understand the meaning, okay? So it's mood or tone the author sets through a list of words. So by repeating or by creating a list of something, it generates a mood, and because of it, you can tell what that word means. So the lugubrious wail of the gypsies matched the dreary whistling of the wind in the all but deserted cemetery. I didn't make this slide. I didn't make this presentation. I don't know why they're so hard. But anyways, I don't like their example. So we're gonna move on. But you can look at lists of things, and those lists of things can help you understand, or a series of them can help you understand the meaning, because they are frequent. There's a frequency of them. Okay? All right. And the last one that we have is cause and effect. So something causes another thing to happen. And cause and effect context clues are clues where the meaning of an unfamiliar word is determined by understanding the reason for the result of the word. So when we use words, like because, since, therefore, thus, so, and similar terms to introduce something. For example, she wanted to impress all her dinner guests with the food she served, so she carefully studied the necessary culinary art. What does culinary art mean? Or what does culinary mean? Cooking, right? Cooking. Why do we know this? Because of what she wanted to do, right? The cause and the effect. We know what she wanted to impress all her dinner guests with food she served means, right? We understand that sentence. So the cause, as a result of, or because of that, so she studied culinary arts, which means she studied cooking. Because why? She wanted to impress people with food. What do you study when you want to impress people with food? How to make the food, which means culinary arts is how to make fancy food. And we know that because we know that art is something beautiful, right? So culinary has to be the art of food or the art of food making. Cool? Questions so far? All right. Are we doing this last one? The last one we have, I think I said that earlier, but this is the last one. The last one we have is a description or an inference. And an inference is an educated guess. We kind of talked a little bit more, a little bit earlier about educated guesses. What can something potentially mean by the things that are surrounding it? So for example, she told her friends, I'm through with blind dates forever. What a dull evening. I was bored every minute. The conversation was absolutely vapid. What do you think vapid means? Where was she? What are blind dates? Does anyone know? Blind dates are the dates that you're set up with someone, you don't know that person. So you've never seen them and your friend goes, oh, let me set you up with so-and-so. Those are blind dates. Is she happy about them? No. How do we know that? I'm through with it. I'm done, right? It was a dull evening. It was very bad, right? I was very bored. So what do you think vapid means? What kind of a conversation was she having? Was it exciting? It was boring. Conversation was boring. It was dull. It was made her not want to do this ever again. Yeah. So when we look at the things that are around it and we make an educated guess, that's called inference. Okay. And then the description is the definition. It's the same thing. So now what we're going to do is you are going to spend some time working through the worksheet. Now you can do this on, you can find this on Canvas, or you could also write it in on a piece of paper. So you can write the answers on a piece of paper, okay? So for the first part of this exercise, you're going to read each sentence carefully. You're going to use the context clues provided to determine the meaning of the underlined word, or in this case, it's the bold word. It's a word that's bold, and identify the type of context clues used and write the definition of the word. Okay? So for the first one, it says, oh, well, already has the answers above, but whatever. The hypothesis, a proposed explanation for a phenomenon must be tested through experiment. So then tell me the meaning of what does hypothesis mean, okay? You can write it on a piece of paper if you want, or you can go through it on Canvas. Cool? And if you're watching this later on, I'm going to pause the recording so you can pause the video, do the worksheet, and then continue. I forgot to resume recording, so let me give this very quickly. Number 1 is proposed explanation. Number 2 is unclear and interpretable in different ways. Number 3 is difficult to understand. Number 4 is elements or conditions that affect growth. So now number 5, we have the aggregated score, like the total sum, was calculated by adding all the individual scores together. What do you think aggregated means?
The average or percentage.
Yeah, kind of like the average. What does it say? Like the total sum. So the aggregated score is the total sum of the score. Okay? But yes, it's an average. Did you guys continue, or I know some of you had the document open. Do you want me to continue it? Yes? The company's revenue stream. So again, if you're watching online, you can pause the video and continue. The company's revenue streams include product sales, services, and investment. What is a revenue? It includes product sales, service fees, and investments, right? So what do you think revenue means? The profit, almost the profit, yes. So what you're getting, all the money that you're getting from that, which includes product sales, service fees, and investment. All the money that you're making as a company. Cool? What is it?
Inventory.
Not the inventory. So the inventory are the products that you have. The product sale is what you already sold. Okay? So the money that comes in, the service fees that people are paying for your services, and the investment, what people are investing into your company. Okay, so we see that as a list. Because of the new policy, employees must comply with stricter regulations to maintain workplace safety. Now, you heard this during COVID, right? You heard the word comply during COVID. What does it mean? What is it? Not achieve, not achieve. That would be kind of complete. Following the rules, following the rules, right? You have to comply with regulations to maintain workplace safety. As a result, right? So it's a cause and effect. You must comply because there's stricter regulations. Do you want to continue? Yes, okay. The data was analyzed thoroughly to ensure accurate results, meaning each detail was carefully explained. What does analyze mean? What in the sentence tells us what analyze means? Carefully examined. That's exactly what it is. What kind of clue is that? What do you think?
Results and meaning of each detail.
What is it?
Because you need a specific resource and exactly resource. Definition.
It's not definition. It's not the result. It's not a cause and effect. It is it's a restatement because they say it twice. So they'll tell you what it is, and then they say it in a different way. Okay. So if this was a definition, it would be the data was analyzed. That is, the details were carefully examined thoroughly to ensure accurate results. Okay, so that would kind of be it. She provided a comprehensive overview covering every aspect of the topic. What does comprehensive mean? One more time. You can understand it. What in the sentence shows you that? Covering every aspect in detail. What kind of a context clue is this? Are they saying the same thing over again, which would be a restatement? Are they giving a definition? Are they a list? Are they examples? What do you think? Comparison? It's not necessarily a comparison. It is a restatement. Okay, because they say it again. All right. So number 10, the infrastructure of the city, including roads, bridges, and public transportation, was in need of significant improvement. What does the infrastructure mean? Yeah, the public transportation, the roads, the bridges, that's the city's infrastructure. And this is, what kind of a clue is that? Example or list? Both would work. Example or list. Okay. His approach was innovative, including new and creative ideas that has not been tried yet. What do you think? What does it include? New and creative, right? That's what innovative means. It means new and creative. And they say it twice, so then it is a restatement. All right. And the regiment in power enacted several reforms to stabilize the economy and improve the public service. What do you think it means?
Like a new regulation or something like that.
The government. Yeah,
The-
close enough, right? The people in power, right? Enacted several reforms. So the government is that, and we know this because it is series of clues. Okay, and then the last two, we have their method was rigorous, involving strict and thorough testing procedures to ensure accuracy. What does rigorous mean? Strict, exactly, strict. And how do we know this? What kind of context clues is this? Restatement, absolutely. He made a significant contribution to the project, offering valuable insight and substantial work. What does contribution mean? Offering values, right? Or with the value that is offering valuable work and insight. That would be contribution. And what kind of a statement is that? What kind of a clue is that? It's a restatement. All right, my friends. So that is it for the context clues with this one. If you're watching online, we'll see you later. If you are here in class, take a 10-minute break, come back in 10 minutes.